is Nick Borges. I'm a deputy chief with the Seaside Police Department, and I've worked here for about 17 years. Well, I actually never really wanted to be a police officer. I got in quite a bit of trouble as a young man, and as I matured in my late teens, I wanted to be a juvenile probation officer. And in order to be a juvenile probation officer, you have to go to a police academy. And I joined the police academy in August of 2001, and a month later, September 2001, 9/11 happened. So being in the police academy, wanting to be a juvenile probation officer and work in a facility, everything changed when 9/11 happened. Just the emotion, the tension, it just shifted everything. And I knew at that point I wanted to be out in the field. If people were trying to harm any of us, I would be one of those people running towards the danger to protect people. That's what shifted me in the academy. Well, the negative things are probably what you would expect. I mean, wearing this uniform, driving a police car, we really stand out as police officers. And there's a lot of tension nationwide, and it's not anything new. This has been around forever. Typically, police officers are responding and going to locations when something wrong is happening, something negative. And there are times we have to tell people what to do, or put handcuffs on people, or take them to jail, or get physical with people. And not a lot of people like that. People don't, anybody, kids and adults, they don't like to be told what to do or be talked to firmly. So it's very challenging to be a police officer and see people that just want to embrace you all the time, because they may have a friend or a relative or themselves that have had a bad experience with a police officer, and every time they see a police officer, it's those, oh, there's one of those guys, those cops over there. So I love it when people wave at me, and I try to wave even if nobody waves back, because that's not who I am as a person. I'm fair. I treat people with respect, and that's the hard part of it. It's just that negative association with, oh, they're one of those guys. That could be tough. I like best, and I was doing it today, I like best when I'm out driving around, interacting with people. You never know what you're going to get in a day. So just now I was over at the Del Monte Manor in Seaside. The Del Monte Manor is the largest, lowest income complex here on the peninsula. And I was interacting with kids and residents there. I typically will go up there and I'll shoot a few hoops of basketball. The hoop that they have at this property, I bought it for them 2 years ago now. So I just love that we can go out and reach people at levels where some jobs you can't. Some jobs you're kind of locked into an office space or a facility. In this job, you have the ability to go out, and that's what I tell the cops. You have the opportunity to go out and help and change so many people's lives so many different ways. Whether it's buying them some groceries, or shooting hoops with a kid, or buying a kid new shoes, or doing a fundraiser for kids who are sick. We have such an opportunity to go out and help people every single day that we come to work. That's outstanding. What motivates me? Well, I've always been very driven. I'm very enthusiastic. I try to stay positive, and I think that motivates me. My family, we didn't grow up very wealthy. My dad came from a different country when he was 17, didn't speak English, and he knew he had to come to this country and work very hard if he wanted to succeed. And I think my parents instilled that in me and my brother and sister, that you got to work very, very hard. So working hard is just something that's inside of me. I'm highly motivated, but probably the key thing that motivates me is when I can change somebody's life. And I can share story after story of lives I have changed with people who have got involved in drugs or even gangs, just by sharing that compassion, and I call it policing from the heart. When I can change somebody's life, even if it's 1 out of 100, that's a huge impact. You've saved somebody's life, you've changed the direction of their life. There's so many people that are impacted, and that motivates me to want to do it over and over again. Me in particular, so I'm a deputy chief, so I'm not an officer that patrols every day in response to calls on a regular basis. That's not my primary function. But I would say my current role, and I'll share what an officer's is, but my current role is probably 50-50. So I do 50% office work, 50% I go out in the field. And that's the reason why you met me, you rode with me. I'm in a full uniform. I have everything that everybody has, because I think it's important for people who are in charge to be out doing the job, or at least participating and getting involved. because it's very hard to be a leader if you don't know what's going on out in the world. So I do that. An officer, they probably spend probably close to that, maybe 30 or 40% office and the rest in the field, because the amount of reports that we have to generate, every time we contact somebody, a report has to be generated, or at least we have to fill out a little form that says we contacted a person, why we contacted them, and that could be quite a bit of paperwork. So, but that's my numbers. No, it wasn't. I thought policing was going to be very militaristic. I thought policing would be coming into work, lining up in a formation, saluting and marching to our cars, and I didn't really know, and I had positive experiences, but more negative with the police. So I thought I'd be coming into something very professional, and I did in many cases, but there was a culture that was very different that I came into. Part of it that I was disappointed in, and I knew early on that I wanted to get ahead in this business, because I'm going to do this for a long time, and I want to get into a position where I can help shape the culture into something more positive, because negative interactions, especially with our youth, those are lasting. People don't forget it. Those youth turn into adults. Those youth turn into adults and have children, and they'll have the same perception of the police. And not all police are perfect, but there's a lot of good police. And if we have that strong bond, we can solve and reduce crime and make our communities safer. I think by far the most powerful skill is using your voice. I speak from the heart, but talking to people. I've worked with police officers over my 17 years that immediately they're going to a tool, like Batman. As soon as there's a problem, they're going to go, what tool do I use to resolve this problem? That doesn't always work. And sometimes you'll create a situation where now there's a physical confrontation, whereas being patient, talking to people, listening to people, hearing them out, even if you think they're wrong, will oftentimes diffuse the situation. Not always, but oftentimes listening to people, whether they're homeless, whether they're addicted to drugs, whether they're involved in gangs, whatever the situation is, everybody's a human being, and you've got to hear them out. And if they're going to give you an opportunity to say something, whether we dislike it or not, let them share their views. It'll eliminate a lot of confrontation that's unnecessary. Yes, and I shared this with you the other day, and I'll say it again, and I firmly believe this. Don't get arrested. Don't go to jail. Don't get in trouble. I was a bad kid. I did things. I'm very lucky that I changed my life before I hit 18. There are things to this day that I look back like, what was I thinking? I got in trouble with the police. And becoming a police officer or working anywhere, those things come out. Here's an example. Becoming a police officer, they did a background, and they were going back to middle school teachers, asking the middle school teachers and pulling my files on anytime I got detention or a referral or suspended or what my grades were, and talking to some of those teachers who were still there about my conduct and behavior. And I will tell you, who I am today is not who I was in middle school. So I was nervous, going, oh my goodness, I'm embarrassed. So just remember, as a young person, I want kids to have fun, I want them to enjoy themselves, but every decision that you make now has a lasting consequence that will follow you later. And I'm very lucky that I changed my life before 18. Some people I knew and hung out with did not change their lives. Some got into gangs, some got into drugs, some of them passed away as a result of following both of those lifestyles. But I know there's a guy I went to school with who was a friend of mine, and I'll be on patrol driving, and I see him wearing the same clothes, riding a bicycle up and down the streets. He doesn't have a license. He lives very poor, this guy back in middle school, most popular guy, everyone loved him. He was smoking cigarettes behind the building. Everyone loved this kid. And now, years later, he's riding a bike, and he sees me, he's ashamed to look at me. I try to say hello to him, but your decisions as a young person will follow you. So remember what you're doing, don't make mistakes, and you'll have a very long future. Sorry, I'm waiting for an important phone call. You have a very bright future. I'm so glad I took the path I chose. Not necessarily just law enforcement, but just a path of working hard, trying to make an honest living. I'm very grateful that I took the path that I took. I wouldn't have it any other way. So we have you right here. This is in the middle of the public here. You can see we have traffic on both sides of us. Business here, people going to work, coming from work, and we have kind of like a homeless encampment area where we have bikes being taken apart, put together. What you and I might say is trash here, but this is actually how some people are living. This is how they're surviving. There's food, there's a blender, there's some vegetables in here. You just look around, just walk around and look. Now, even though this is kind of a homeless encampment, our homeless community has rights. They're still considered human beings like everybody else. So if they had like a closed tent or something, we can't go inside of it. That's considered their home, their personal space, their castle. And it creates conflict for the police because they're setting up their home in public property. So what we're trying to do now is get our public works department to come here. We're trying to take care of this at the lowest levels possible, get some signage out here to give people a warning to move along to a different location. This is not what we want in our community, this type of stuff. When we have people coming in and they're going to businesses, there's kids that go inside the store. This is just not what we want right here. We want to help people get out of this lifestyle. So you see it, there you go, there you have it. Okay, so what I like to do is I start taking my belt off as they slow down, because I've had people jump out of the car on me. Slowly turn my radio up. See, I don't like them pulling in here. 6 out of 3 final stop is Togo's parking lot. I try to be out of the car before they are.
Center 6 Lincoln 210, and I'll be en route to 1550 CDR.
1550 CDR.
Center 6 Lincoln 310.
6 Lincoln 310 point.